One of the most heartbreaking realities is the epidemic of abandoned animals, particularly dogs. It's hard to imagine how anyone could leave their pet behind, but sadly, it happens more often than we think. In fact, according to shelter statistics, over 7.6 million animals are abandoned and left in shelters every year in the United States alone. These animals, once loved, are suddenly left to fend for themselves, often confused, scared, and uncertain about their future. The sheer volume of abandoned pets highlights the need for compassion, education, and responsible pet ownership. In a quiet neighborhood in Fowler, California, a stray dog was spotted wandering the streets, and it quickly became evident that she was pregnant. This piqued the concern of the volunteers at Pinkie Paws Rescue, a local organization dedicated to helping animals in need. Reports from the locals revealed that the dog had been abandoned in the area months earlier, roaming the countryside alone. The neighbors had tried to catch her several times, but the frightened dog was elusive, avoiding capture at every turn. Her growing belly was a clear sign that she was soon to give birth, and the thought of her delivering puppies on the streets was too much for the rescue organization to bear. Stray dogs face countless dangers, from starvation and injury to exposure to the elements, and the volunteers knew that without help, both the mother and her unborn puppies were at great risk. Determined to save her, Pinkie Paws Rescue sprang into action. The team knew capturing her wouldn't be easy, as she had evaded attempts before. The frightened dog, likely traumatized from being abandoned, was wary of humans and kept her distance from those trying to help. But the rescuers were patient and persistent, determined to gain her trust and give her the care she deserved. After several attempts and many hours spent trying to coax her, the rescue team finally succeeded. They gently captured the stray dog and brought her to safety. The volunteers lovingly named her Betty Boop, a nod to her sweet and timid nature. Once in their care, Betty Boop was given the medical attention she needed, and the volunteers made sure she had a warm, comfortable place to rest. Her transformation was immediate. With love and care, the once frightened dog began to open up, trusting the people who had saved her. For Betty Boop, her life was about to change for the better. No longer would she have to fend for herself on the streets or worry about where her next meal would come from. Instead, she was surrounded by people who cared for her and wanted to see her and her soon-to-be-born puppies thrive. Her story is just one of many, but it serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of animal rescues and the impact they have on the lives of abandoned pets. Betty Boop's journey from being a pregnant stray to a dog with a second chance at life is a testament to the dedication and compassion of animal rescue organizations Pinkie Paws Rescue. Their commitment to saving animals, Betty Boop offers hope in the face of the abandoned animal epidemic. Betty Boop, a stray dog who had clearly experienced tough times, was finally captured by the dedicated volunteers from Pinkie Paws Rescue. Weak and frail, she appeared to have recently given birth, heightening the concern of the rescue team. However, Betty Boop was still frightened and agitated. In a moment of panic, she managed to slip away from the rescuers. Undeterred, the volunteers, driven by their commitment to saving her and her pups, persisted. They carefully pursued her and, with patience and care, managed to recapture Betty Boop, determined to not only protect her but also to find her puppies. Once they had Betty Boop safely with them again, the volunteers knew they were in a race against time. The well-being of her puppies weighed heavily on their minds, as they were likely helpless and in danger without their mother. Every second mattered, and the team was desperate to locate them. One volunteer came up with a creative plan that might help coax Betty Boop into revealing their location. She played a recording of crying puppies on her phone, hoping it would spark a maternal instinct in Betty Boop and encourage her to lead the team to her litter. At first, Betty Boop seemed unsure, her confusion evident as she listened to the sounds of the puppies. But after a few moments, something shifted in her demeanor. It was as if she finally understood what the rescuers were asking of her. To the volunteers' relief, Betty Boop began to move. She led them away from the neighborhood, carefully navigating through different areas. The team followed closely behind, their hopes rising with each step. As Betty Boop walked, the volunteers' hearts filled with anticipation. Could she be guiding them to her puppies? The rescue team moved cautiously, not wanting to lose her again, but filled with hope that they were getting closer to reuniting her with her pups. Betty Boop's pace quickened, and with it, so did the volunteers' sense of urgency. Betty Boop's maternal instincts were clearly driving her, and the volunteers' quick thinking had paid off. The collaboration between the rescue team's strategy and the dog's innate sense of duty to her puppies was working in perfect harmony. What began as a panicked attempt to save a lost mother dog had turned into a coordinated effort between humans and animal, working together to ensure the safety of the puppies. Betty Boop's journey from being a terrified stray to a mother leading her rescuers to her puppies was a testament to the strength of animal instincts and the dedication of those who fight to protect them. The determination of the volunteers, combined with Betty Boop's maternal drive, created a heartwarming story of compassion and rescue that shows the deep connections possible between humans and animals. The walk was long, and after about 2 miles, the rescue volunteer needed to take a break. She began to wonder if Betty Boop had misunderstood their intention and was just leading her on a stroll. However, that theory quickly disappeared when Betty Boop began whining insistently, clearly urging the volunteer to keep moving. It became evident that the dog had something important to show her. Betty Boop led the volunteer far from where they had initially captured her to an old, dilapidated farmhouse. The volunteer followed as Betty Boop guided her inside the structure, filled with curiosity about what the dog was trying to show her. Once inside, Betty Boop walked straight to a hole in the floor. The volunteer bent down, unsure of what she would find. Suddenly, the faint sound of puppies crying echoed from beneath the floor. Realizing that Betty Boop had led her to her litter, the volunteer quickly called her colleagues for backup. It sounded there were more than just a few puppies down in that hole, and she would need help getting them all out. With her team on site, the rescuers began pulling the puppies out of the hole one by one. First one, then 2, then 3, and they just kept coming. The rescuers were amazed at how many puppies there were, continuing to pull them out one after another. In total, the team found 10 puppies living under the farmhouse. The volunteers were astounded, believing it was pure luck that they had found them in time. The rescue team described it as a miracle that they had come across the puppies at all. Betty Boop had shown remarkable trust in the rescue volunteer, leading her back to the very place where she had hidden her furry family, knowing the woman would help them all. According to the shelter volunteers, Betty Boop had been making this 2-mile-long journey every single day to find food for her puppies. Her devotion and perseverance were extraordinary, and her maternal instincts were unmatched. The rescue organization had never seen such dedication, as Betty Boop tirelessly walked miles to ensure her babies were fed. Betty Boop's remarkable story of love, survival, and trust became an unforgettable experience for the rescuers, and her bravery in leading them to her puppies left a lasting impact. Thanks to her determination and the volunteers' quick action, Betty Boop and her 10 puppies were finally safe and cared for. After the remarkable rescue of Betty Boop and her 10 puppies, the team at Pinkie Paw's Rescue decided to take the whole furry family back to the shelter. There, they could receive proper care, nutrition, and medical attention. Betty Boop, having spent so much time fending for herself and her pups in the harsh conditions of the abandoned farmhouse, seemed to sense that she was finally in a safe and loving place. She certainly approved of the decision to head back to the shelter, where she and her puppies could rest and recover without worry. The volunteers at Pinkie Paw's worked tirelessly to ensure Betty Boop and her pups were comfortable. The puppies were fragile and needed constant attention as they adjusted to life in the shelter. Thankfully, they were in good hands. Betty Boop, ever the devoted mother, was able to relax, knowing she didn't have to face the daily struggles of finding food and shelter for her little ones anymore. Now, all they needed was time to grow stronger and healthier before finding homes of their own. As the days went by, Betty Boop's puppies grew quickly. Full of energy and curiosity, they soon became little adventurers. The volunteers at the shelter fondly recalled how the mischievous pups would constantly attempt to escape their enclosure. Whether it was digging under the fencing or trying to climb out, The puppies were determined to explore their surroundings, keeping the shelter staff on their toes. But the puppies weren't the only ones with a knack for sneaking around. Betty Boop, though now residing in her own kennel, had a sneaky way of escaping too. Driven by her strong maternal instincts, she would somehow manage to slip out of her enclosure and make her way to visit her babies, even though they were safe and sound in their own area. It seemed she simply couldn't stay away from them for too long. The volunteers were amused by her antics and admired the close bond between Betty Boop and her pups. The love and devotion Betty Boop showed for her puppies touched everyone at the shelter. Even after her rescue, she couldn't bear to be away from her babies for too long. Her maternal instincts were so strong that she would find ways to check on her pups, sneaking out of her kennel to be near them. The shelter staff was amazed by her protective nature and commitment to her little ones. It only made them more determined to find the perfect homes for both Betty Boop and her growing puppies. As time passed, the puppies grew strong and healthy under the care of the dedicated volunteers at Pinkie Paw's rescue. Each pup developed its own playful personality, thriving in the safe environment provided by the shelter. They were now ready to take the next step, finding their forever homes. Betty Boop, too, was thriving. Her days of wandering the streets and struggling to survive were now just a distant memory. She had grown more confident and content thanks to the care and compassion she received. While she and her pups were still waiting for adoption, the volunteers knew that it wouldn't be long before loving families welcomed them into their homes. The tireless work of rescue organizations Pinkie Paw's Rescue makes stories Betty Boop's possible. Every day, volunteers dedicate their time, energy, and resources to rescuing animals that have been abandoned or mistreated. They ensure that these animals, many of which are scared, hungry, or injured, receive the medical care, shelter, and love they so desperately need. Without organizations Pinkie Paw's, countless animals would be left to suffer on the streets. Betty Boop's story is just one of many, but it serves as a reminder of the incredible impact rescue groups can have on the lives of animals. The transformation from being a stray dog struggling to survive to becoming a beloved companion is not an easy journey. It's a process filled with challenges, requiring patience and dedication. But it's also a journey filled with hope as each rescued animal is given a second chance at life. Betty Boop and her puppies were lucky enough to be found and rescued in time. They were given the care and attention they needed to grow strong and healthy, and they thrived under the shelter's compassionate watch. Now, they are on the brink of finding their forever homes, where they will be loved and cherished for the rest of their lives. In the case of Betty Boop and her pups, all's well that ends well. They've come a long way from their days in the abandoned farmhouse, and their future is bright. Thanks to the efforts of the Pinkie Paw's rescue team and the kindness of everyone who helped along the way, these once abandoned dogs are now ready to embark on a new chapter of their lives. That chapter will be filled with love, care, and the promise of a forever home, something every dog deserves.